Normans and Saxons, stop the tedious writing of records and documenting of events. Lament with Petrarch the fall of the classical golden age, and pay no attention to the Byzantine Empire behind the Mediterranean.
Because it's time to talk Tull to me. Thought I had something. I didn't.
I don't often get to see your brain glitch.
It broke. It broke. Yeah. Got scared.
Quick reboot.
Panicked.
Welcome back. I am Omen Sade.
And I am Nick McGill.
Together we are Feckless Momes.
And this is Talk Tull to Me.
Tiki just fell off the desk. An archaeological dig in the progressive layer of historical rock and roll, in which Nymphaeum Nick and Octostyle Omen will run our little brushes over the ruins of every single track that unrelenting prog rock band Jethro Tull ever produced. We will uncover the mountain retreat to which the nobles fled from the D. Palmer plague. We will unbury the Roman bath where legend has it John Evan cleaned himself off that one time. And perhaps we will even bring to light some long-forgotten, curry-stained manuscript where the sage hand of Ian Anderson penned the seeds of rock and roll enlightenment, like Petrarch. No, like Boccaccio. No. I want to be Boccaccio this time. You were Petrarch. You've been Boccaccio last time. It's much more fun.
Is it out of your system?
I'm done.
Okay.
I just like saying Boccaccio.
It's good. It's good. I used to play Boccaccio in college.
Until you lost all that money playing it.
Oh man, I had to start dancing to pay for college after that.
Yeah. Nick.
Yes, Omen.
Here we are barely. Here we are on another episode, another week, talking Tull for the benefit of all.
That's right.
And mostly for our own amusement. So, anything before we dive into the very chunky long song that we have today?
We are just cresting the apex of side A. We are coming down the hill. We are the end is in sight for side A. But before we get into the track of the day, I do want to talk a little bit about the tour for Stormwatch.
The Stormwatch tour?
Stormwatch tour.
Ooh, Nick laid on me.
So, as we knew, Dave Pegg from Fairport Convention had come on to be the bassist.
Yes.
He was in for the official tour. Barrymore Barlow suggested him because Fairport had just disbanded. However, I did see in some notes that Tony Williams played the bass on the U.S. tour, on a 38-date U.S. tour. So he maybe that was pre-Andy, post. I'm not sure what the situation was there. Maybe Andy was hired just for the European dates at that time. It's interesting.
So it was really kind of a period of switching between bassists,
trying to figure out what to do. Really, I mean, I'm sure they were pretty scrambling at that point.
I would imagine so. I mean, and even as Glasscock's health problems were becoming evident, I'm sure that the last thing anyone wanted to do was for him to stop playing with the band because he was so good.
Yeah, and they'd been playing together for 5-6 years now. Like they were probably pretty darn close.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Ian has also sort of implied that the darkness in the album was partly a result of tensions that were brewing in the band.
Yeah.
So, but who knows?
But it also could be the darkness could have been brought on by the fact that everybody knew like this was not sustainable in many ways, health-wise, relationship-wise, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But to go back to the tour, this was the tour with that absurd ship set design that we've seen every now and then. That I've heard some of our Patreon listeners have said, was it John? Was it an Anglo correspondent said he saw this? One of you guys, at least one of you said that you saw this tour. And this was here. along with the set design, the absurd pageantry of the set design, they all had specific costumes that they wore during this tour in 79.
Okay.
So Ian wore a leather medieval doublet and a blue tam o' shanter, which I think is a
Is that a
I
hat?
think it's a hat, yeah.
Yeah.
Martin wore a striped granddad shirt, a flat cap, and a neckerchief. Dee's outfit, all that I saw, was a quote from her saying, "My sort of Viking outfit."
Okay.
Barry wore sported blue shorts, a singlet, and a leather flying helmet, obviously.
Yep.
Dave Pegg wore a smock and a deerstalker hat. And John Evans wore his customary baggy white Harpo Marx suit, variously feathered shoulder pads or military sash and epaulettes.
Yes. So it's sort of like they clothed themselves in the aftermath of a regional theater costume department which exploded.
Exactly what I was thinking, yes.
Yeah.
In addition, this was the tour where at Madison Square Garden, a fan rushed the stage and thrust some roses up to Ian, who was at the lip of the stage. He got a rose in the eye. A rose,
Oh, my God.
He says it was the worst pain in his life, but he finished the show. And he spent a week wearing protective contacts and glasses while it healed, but they only postponed the following day's show. They never canceled it.
Talk about a gift of roses.
And I think, yeah, right, maybe that's what it was inspired by. And I think there are a couple of shots, a couple of photos from this era where he's wearing these big, they almost look like construction eyeglasses or something.
Yeah, I kind of vaguely remember that.
That's why he was wearing protective eye gear. Apparently, it was just a bonkers tour because Dave Pegg says that he saw a dart land in the back of the Hammond organ during that show.
What in the heck?
He never saw where it came from. He said it could be quite scary. All sorts of stuff was thrown up on stage.
Wow, rowdy time.
Insane. So bonkers. Yeah.
I mean, anything in the eye is going to hurt.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been hit in the eye. I've bumped myself in the eye with a pillow, and I'm just down for the count for 5 minutes. It's unpleasant.
Well, and also if you're sweating and
oh my gosh,
in front of all those people.
Yeah. He
makes the pain worse.
True Ian, he worked right through it. So that's it. That's all I have for the tour, but for the song itself today that we're talking about, Dark Ages. So this one was recorded in multiple sections on June 4th in 79. I mean, it's a 9-minute song, so I would not be surprised.
That tracks for
me. Ian thinks this song is brilliant.
It's always so interesting hearing which ones he likes.
I know,
dislikes.
right? To quote him, a rather doom-laden reference to dark ages to come, while musically it has a full-on rapid-fire approach.
Well, and that's our show. That's usually what we do.
Thanks,
but we've had
Ian.
it from the mouth of him himself. Yep. So see you next week.
That's it. We'll see. We'll be back next week to finish the album.
Yeah, great.
Yeah,
I'm loving these tidbits, Nick.
I know. I found I don't know what resource that was.
You're like a piñata that you think all the candy's out of, but then you shake it a little bit more, and more tasty bits come out.
It wasn't the Ballad of Jethro Tull. It was one of the books that I had. Maybe it was the magazine. You know, it might have been the Prague magazine that was Jethro Tull specific. Yeah, a lot of good tidbits in that. Yeah. I am a candy. But I'm filled with like saltwater taffy and candy corn, toothbrushes and miniature toothpastes.
The worst piñata.
Yeah,
ever.
the piñata was shaped like a tooth. You should have known.
Shall we dive into Dark Ages, Nick?
Yes. Don't try to hold your breath on this one. Come up for air if you need to. It's a long end.
Good to remember. Wow.
I have no memory of the last 9 minutes.
There's a lot going on in that song.
There is so much going on in Dark Ages. But before we get into it,
Yeah.
I think I know what your answer is going to be. I know what my answer is to this question.
I think I know what your question is.
I want you to tell me what my question is.
Oh, I didn't think you were going to call my bluff. I think your question is going to be, where does this song rank for me in this album?
Oh, no, I wasn't going to ask you that. But since you brought it up.
What was your question?
Do you have an answer to your question first?
No, I do not.
Is this song too long?
Whenever I encounter that kind of a question about anything, is it to this or that? I think that my question is, for what?
Fair enough.
Too long for
Does
what?
it overstay its welcome?
No, it doesn't for me. I think that, I also think that this is a song that really would thrive in the tour context.
Oh my gosh, I would love to see this song live. Holy cow.
And I think that in that context, in the right live venue, 9 minutes might be not quite long enough.
I think it would be transcendent in
Yes.
79 with that freaking cast. Even with Peggy being in place of John Glascock, like, whew, my goodness.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, and this isn't on the recording. This isn't Glasscock. This is Ian.
Correct. Yeah, this is Ian, right?
So presumably, if it was David Pegg, then the bass would be even better than what we have here.
Very valid. That's true.
Not that the bass is bad. I want to come back to that. Let's put a peg in that for later.
Yeah. For the record, I also don't think this song is too long. I think it's this is one of those few where I do not think it drags on. When especially because the fact, normally my biggest complaint about a long song is when Ian repeats the first verse, or something like that. He does it. The way he pulls it off in this is perfect.
I do think there's a certain audacity with, there is a place later on in the song where it could easily end there, and I thought it was going to.
Yep.
It's not really a false ending, but it feels like it's resolving, and then it goes back into Dark Ages one more time, and it's like, but rather than coming across, to me at least, as okay, yeah, you're gonna sing the chorus one more time, it's sort of like, oh my God, it's over. Oh no, it's coming back for more.
This needs to happen. It is an inevitability. Dark Ages is going to be sung one more time with, just when you thought there wasn't enough power in the band, everybody comes in on overdrive, and it's just a mind-blowing experience.
Let's talk about the construction of this song. I mean, let's dive in musically.
Real quick, since we talked about it, do you want to know how many times this was played live?
Oh, yes, I do. I do want to know that, Nick. Tell me. Give me the information.
I will.
Shut up and tell me.
I will. Shut up, sit down, close your mouth, and then tell me. So it was only played live 38 times by Tull. 25 times in 79, 13 in 80. And that's it. And then twice by Ian in 2020.
Interesting. So really it was of that era. It was very much for that tour and not much after that.
I feel like of all of the songs off of Stormwatch that would utilize the Great Big Ship set design, this feels like it would be it,
I also can imagine, I wonder if this is a trend for songs of this period. I can imagine, although I remember when we saw them in concert, I think they played Dung Ringil.
Oh, probably, yeah.
I can imagine, if this was a tough time with feelings and, losing Glasscock, that you wouldn't necessarily want to revisit the period.
So you think it's akin to Benefit, our theory around Benefit?
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, who knows?
Right. There are those one or two where you can get away with playing a nice, quiet, softer piece. Because a lot like, I'm realizing, a lot like Aqualung, there's a lot of mellow in this album, too.
And like Aqualung, it is contrasted with big set pieces.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, so look at Dung Ringil or something like that. That's a song that you could really adapt and do in a bunch of different styles. I think that one of the times we saw them, they were doing half the concert was unplugged. Well, unplugged. It was like the acoustic set.
Yeah. I do remember
And
that.
I think they did Dungringle in that set, and it worked super well.
Oh my gosh,
because,
it would translate perfectly. Yeah.
But this song would not.
I wonder about a coffee house version of this song. Just like
I think that would be super boring.
it certainly
would
wouldn't be
hate
9 minutes. It would not be 9 minutes long. You would definitely chop a bunch of it, but
I think this is the kind of song that either you have to play it full out with everything, with the ship, with
absolutely.
fireworks,
pageantry, yeah,
or you don't do it.
yeah.
It needs that level of energy in order to live, and if you have anything below that, it just is bathos.
It's not a word that I'm aware of. It would get
may not
stagnant.
be a word.
It would get stagnant, I think.
Yeah, it would be ridiculous. It'd be like a half inflated bouncy castle.
Yeah, it would be performance art, you know, to a level of absurdity that it could only be pulled off as performance art.
Which, if there's one thing that I hate more than art, it's performance.
Art.
It's performance art.
So I agree with Ian. This song is brilliant.
I agree with you that this song is brilliant.
Oh, well, thank you.
I don't know that I agree with Ian,
It's difficult to agree with Ian.
but I'll agree with you.
He's not apologized for those things he said to you, but
It's what he didn't say. That hurt. I love listening to this song because it seems like a return to the really big. I mean, it's almost taking me back to Too Old, where you have these really intricately composed pieces. It's putting the OG back in Prague.
yeah, of all the pieces off of Stormwatch, this is the one that it has the most pageantry. That's the most production. That smacks of a production, you know. Yeah, and it's absolutely.
I mean, it's hard to listen to the song without imagining all of the performance elements.
Oh my gosh, those guys are so busy in this song. It is just bananas. Yeah. Everyone is crazy busy. Do you want to get into some musical details? Yeah.
Let's peel those bananas.
So we start out with that super eerie, like, feedback sound. I don't know if it's the guitar just kind of ringing away, or if it's like a feedback from an amp or something, but it comes in with that like
I think that's the organ. I think that
is
the
it
organ
really
utilized to create that effect? Yeah.
Wow. And I think very, very low, there are voices in the background too. It's not our weather guy. He comes back in Dunringill, but I feel like there's like some chatter or something. I feel this song is haunted. I feel like there's a presence or multiple presences in this song.
Yeah. So you hear voices speaking in this song?
I think
early on.
Maybe it's that sting, that kind of echo in, is just hitting the right note in my mind, and it's making me hallucinate.
Could be.
But I feel like in that startup, there are voices. I don't know.
Interesting.
I can't speak more to it.
I'll have to listen to that more carefully next time.
Yeah. So then we get Martin coming in with some serious stings.
Squiddy squirrel. I mean, you can just imagine how well the lights could be arranged to that. Yeah. I mean, this is a lighting designer's wet dream.
Absolutely. Throw on the fog machines and then hit spot 3 and you're golden.
Don't throw on the fog machines. It hurts Ian's lungs.
And then what really gives it the ghostly quality is that kind of like reverse fade of Ian's voice coming in. That's a super common sound trick now in like ghost movies when someone's speaking from the other realm or something. It's that weird like fade in. I would love to know how that's done. If anyone can tell me. I've never been able to figure out how that's actually done.
Darlings, are you ready?
It's just an effect. I think that you can't do it live.
Probably not, no.
Unless you delayed it enough to create that kind of reverse feedback.
Yeah.
But if it's recorded, you can then put it on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a filter of some kind, a post-production. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it's a postie.
Then, Omen, what comes next?
Nick.
What comes next?
D strings?
No, it makes me think of Al. It's a story you told us about Al.
Oh, the vibra slap?
Vibra slap comes in.
Oh my
The
gosh.
variety of percussion on this song. We got bells, we got shakers, we got various sizes and timbres of cymbals. Barry's all over the place on this.
Yes. It's very theatrical. I mean, I think we're going to keep coming back to that a lot,
Yeah.
but it's a very theatrically designed piece.
I really do want to look up to see if there's any video of this tour now that I think about it. There must be. I wonder if we can
Probably somewhere.
find this song being played, because I can see it happening. And it's not the synesthesia of like a scene in my head of this makes me think of this thing.
No, I think it's because you know the individual elements well enough and their performance styles that you can literally kind of piece together like a Tolkiologist, as it were.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm going to do a quick search for it.
Yeah, we pick up the pieces and put them together, and like a lot of dinosaur skeletons, it's probably not the right way, but it looks pretty damn cool.
Dark Ages Around the World Live. Well, there's his blue hat.
The Tam O'Shanter.
There's the blue tam o'shanter and his leather medieval doublet. He's got a tambourine hung on his mic stand, and he's doing his classic pull back like a crazy person from the mic and then dive at it.
Yep.
It seems like there's not a lot of flashing lights going. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, he's doing some very interesting dance moves. Ooh. There he goes with the tambourine. He does look a bit possessed. The drum kit is huge.
Sure.
There's a lot of red being used in the lights.
Interesting.
Let me send you this video.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
For your fun.
For my fun times. So after we get some more samplings of the drums in kind of off beats and down beats, and it on top of everything else, it brings you further into the feeling of a slight discomfort. He's hitting those kind of off notes, so you're not ever feeling that you're slipping into the groove, you know?
Yes, it's unsettling.
It very much is. Then we get piano. Piano comes in. Ian comes strolling in with the bass.
For the long wind is from.
The keyboard swaps over to organ at about 1:30.
And the vicar stands a praying.
I want to talk about Ian's bass.
Please.
Because we've been a little bit, perhaps we've been unkind or unnecessarily harsh regarding Ian's bass playing abilities in the past, because we've been comparing him to Glasscock.
True.
We've just, said that it's not as evolved.
Exactly. And playing devil's advocate, Ian himself has said that he in no way meets that level of skill, But
that's right.
That being said, it's not rudimentary.
To play Beelzebub's bailiff, I want to say that this is some not half bad bass playing.
It's really good bass. Yeah.
And some of it, he really even does those kind of like bits.
If I didn't know it was Ian, I would say that it was Jeffrey. If I didn't know anything about like time periods, I would say that it was Jeffrey.
Absolutely, I agree. After the vicar stands praying, the tempo increases, because that whole intro of the song is done almost in kind of a cadenza-ish, not really marked out time signature or tempo.
Yeah, it's kind of I don't want to say sweepy, because I reserve that for Dee's strings, but there's a flow there, there's kind of an ebb and flow. It's almost like waves. You can't set time to waves.
You shouldn't, otherwise you'll be very late.
You shouldn't, yeah. Also, strings come in right around there too.
And then after the vicar starts praying, we have the tempo come in really dum tuka dum tuka dum
Yeah.
dum, and it really goes off from there. So it really, I mean, again, the construction is amazing because it sets up this kind of timeless, unnerving landscape, and then it drops you into it.
Yeah, I think that transition you're talking about around like 2:30, about 2.5, when the bass and the guitar, like it's like they flip a switch. It's like, oh, and then Ian's got some flute in there, and Barry dances across the toms. There was an episode in the Heavy Horses bonus tracks that was a first take cutting room floor where the transitions were so rough. Was it Horsehawing Husbandry?
Right.
I think it was Horsehawing Husbandry.
Yes.
That transition in this is rough. It's like, I mean, I can see what they're talking about doing it in takes.
Yeah, I think, as you said, that they recorded it in different sections, and I suspect that's the change between some sections.
Oh, it most certainly is. It's got to be, yeah. After the ups and downs and the sweeps and this and that, at about 7, that's when we get back into that transition of slow, where, for lack of a better term, it could have stopped. You know, it's one of those where the rest is just bonus content. There are some crazy vocal layers in there, and I don't know if it's just Ian on 5 tracks or if he had the guys jump in. I don't think anyone else is credited for vocals.
Shaking the dance, close paging, better not glance, go on raging, they burn in the air.
Yeah, no, I think it's probably him doubling up. There's some other vocal things happening in this track that are noteworthy.
Yeah.
I think this is the highest that we have ever heard Ian sing.
Interesting. Okay. Is this... No, it's still a little early. You know what? It's going to get higher on the next album because that's A, and that's when he blows out his voice.
Right.
Yeah.
So Dark Ages, Shaking the Dead, Closed Pages, Better Not Read, Dull Rages, They'll Burn in Your Head.
Yeah. He really... Yeah, he rock and roll pushes it. Yeah.
And it's amazing.
It really
sounds
is.
awesome. I love it.
Yeah, his voice in this, and then those layers and the echoes, the pre-echoes, those kind of indistinct chatters. Like this song, Omen, am I going to say this? Is this song a masterpiece?
Ooh.
We haven't. I think the only other time we said it was Heavy Horses.
I mean, it's very good.
It's very,
I think that
very
we will
good.
have to listen to the rest of the album before we can decide. But
Yeah.
it is certainly one of the oeuvres, I would say.
It makes me do that. It makes me do one of those.
It makes you oeuvre.
Makes me oeuvre.
It makes you oeuvrelate. I also want to point out there are just a couple other musical things that I kind of want to mention. One are those 2 awesome breakdowns in which we have Martin letting go in a way that we haven't heard a lot recently.
There's no way his guitar did not catch on fire at least once per session of this song. Like he is,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He is ripping in this song. I have a feeling that our resident minstrel likes this song for that reason. I bet you Joe really likes this song.
I think everyone likes this song.
Well, fair enough. Fair enough.
In the beginning of the first breakdown, what we have introduced that first breakdown is Ian killing some eighth notes on the bass.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's part of the place where you said there's a little bit of a weird transition.
Yeah.
It's almost like he takes a second to get into that rhythm, but once he gets it, he holds on to it.
Yeah.
And it's incredible.
What we're accustomed to leading up until this point musically, just it's like they splice the two tapes together. We get ba ba da 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 da, and then like Ian is walking along on the bass very well.
Yeah. The other big musical moment that I want to point out, and this I think will maybe transition us slightly into themes.
Okay.
But I think it's the second to the last Dark Ages chorus.
I think I know what you're talking about. Go on.
Where everything pulls back and we have strings. You know, we're going from this super hard, super like rocking stuff.
Yeah.
And then it pulls back to the Dark Ages chorus and you have the strings. You have maybe a little organ, just very lightly. There's some kind of tiny little flute stuff going on. Almost like some pipes.
Shaking the dance, close painting, better not rest.
It's a weird tinkly organ. Yeah, we haven't heard it up until this point, but it's got this. I'm going to keep using this word. I think it's got this eerie sound to it, and it almost smacks of like a medieval feel, which I mean it fits perfectly.
Yeah,
but it's clearly like keyboard synthesizer medieval feel.
Darlings, are you ready for the long winter's fall? I set the lady in a parlor, I set the butler in the hall.
If it wasn't so haunting, it would be cheesy.
Yes, yeah.
But it's not. It's fire.
It's haunting enough to be forgiving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that the effect is that it allows you to, again, it's like it's Ian zooming and pulling back the camera where it's like you're in it, and then you come away and for a minute you see the beauty within all this darkness and chaos, and then it drops you right back into it.
Yeah.
So he's such a master of providing contrast.
Yes.
I love AC/DC. I think AC/DC is amazing. But once an AC/DC song gets going, it pretty much just plows through to the end.
Yeah.
You don't have like a moment of introspection.
No, not at all. Speaking of plowing and moments of introspection, whatever, this song, it's not sweeping. It doesn't barrel forward out of control. You know, you're still moving with it.
Okay.
But it's not like you're swept away on a torrential river like some of the other like really rocking songs that we've had before. But that's not to say that it's sluggish. It's very controlled and very perfectly coordinated.
It's less like you're being swept away by a river and more like you've been caught up in the talons of some kind of giant prehistoric flying bird.
Yeah. A rock
and
has picked you up.
A rock.
Yeah.
And it's taking you to its cinnamon nest to feed you to its babies.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Finally, at the very end, we've got that it closes, it fades out on the... It's not the same, but it gives you that same reminiscent of that kind of discomforting feeling as it fades in. We've got kind of these echoey strings, and then Ian's flute going too,
bending the note.
Yeah. And that's it musically.
I mean, that's all we can talk about. There's so much more musically, I think.
Without coming into risking our own health and well-being, that's all we can talk about right now.
Speaking of risking our own health and well-being, shall we talk about the lyrics?
Woof. Okay.
Before we talk about the lyrics,
please.
I think we should talk about the term Dark Ages.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
So I think that it is worth pointing out that there is a really big kind of schism between the usage of that phrase currently between people in the popular culture milieu
Okay.
and people in the academic world.
Sure. Okay.
People in the academic world, medievalists, if you will, no longer seriously use the term Dark Ages to refer to the early and Middle Ages, or the period after the fall of the Roman Empire, between kind of 500 and 1000 AD. There are some, current usages of Dark Ages to refer to more specific times in history, like the Byzantine Dark Ages, or the
Interesting.
the Dark Ages of this particular civilization at this particular time. But Dark Ages as a blanket term to refer to the medieval period in Europe
Yeah.
is not really like an academically approved of thing anymore. I think that died out pretty much in the early 90s.
It feels like we were probably some of the last ones to learn about it in like high school social studies, and that's
Well, and
probably
it could be given the given the state of the American education system, it's entirely possible that they're still using the textbooks that we have.
Fair enough. That's very true.
But-
yeah.
But in the popular culture, Dark Ages means, a period of backwardness, of technological simplicity, of ignorance.
Yeah.
And the term was actually, or the concept was actually introduced by Plutarch, the Tuscan poet and
Philosopher.
and churchman who lived at around the 1300s.
Okay.
And his whole point was, because before that, the narrative had always been, it was dark during the time of paganism before Christianity, and Christianity brought the light.
Wow. Okay. So it wasn't pre-enlightenment. Well, maybe it was pre-enlightenment, but it wasn't the Enlightenment period that pulled them out of the darkness.
Well, that's what Petrarch introduced the idea
Oh,
of.
okay.
Previous to Petrarch, the idea had always been like, oh yeah, well, we've saved the world with Christianity.
Gotcha.
It was all dark and ignorant and pagan, and then Christianity came along. Petrarch said, have you read the classics? Like, these people had like civilization and thoughts, and here we are scratching around, in kind of not in a super brilliant situation intellectually, because if you look at like the publication of books after, in the 500 to 1000 AD, it was like barely anything if you don't count the Byzantine Empire, which I never count the Byzantine Empire.
I mean, I consider them. I just keep them off to the side. Just
Right,
dip
they're
in
a
if
different
you're.
file.
Yeah.
So anyway, Petrarch basically said, these are the Dark Ages because we have fallen from the Golden Age.
Yeah.
And it was his exploration and his rediscovery of the letters of Cato which started the seeds of what eventually did become the Enlightenment,
Wow.
which pulled us out of the Dark Ages, quote unquote.
So Petrarch was an advocate of we can do better.
Petrarch was an advocate of we could do
Yeah.
better, and he really turned around, he laid the foundation for people like Boccaccio, whom he met, who wrote the Decameron,
Yeah.
and influenced people who came after him, such as Dante Alighieri, etc., etc.
Huh.
All of that being said, Dark Ages refers to a period of ignorance and social and economic collapse.
As a catch-all term, yeah.
Yes.
The fact that it's in the title notwithstanding, this song is so dark and heavy. Like, dark is a perfect adjective for this song. It fits so well in this album. But there's this, I don't know, maybe I'm looking for something here, but I feel like there's this weird, this glimmer of hope in this song, in Ian's voice as the narrator alone. Everything else, everything he's singing about, the sound, everything is so dark and tumultuous, but he's guiding us through. He's like a will-o'-the-wisp leading us through this unnaturally fog-laden marsh to get to the other side.
Ooh, I love that.
and
Yeah.
and there's anger in his voice. He's pissed, but he's going to help us get through.
Well, I mean, I think that's like I love that. I agree, and I feel like I would say it's a defiance.
Sure, yeah, yeah. An angry defiance.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a comparison. I mean, there are all these stories. I guess I'm thinking of the story of Ivanhoe. Did you ever read that or see the
No.
movie adaptations?
No.
Ivanhoe is a knight around like 1200 who, the world is awful. He's
Yeah.
like,
Well, yeah.
he's trying to rescue people and do whatever knight stuff, and everything is just super bad. And there's racism and war, anti-Semitism, and all this stuff. And he's trying, and Ivanhoe is an honorable person.
Mm.
So it's like in the midst of all this chaos and darkness, he's trying to be true to his beliefs and to himself and trying to do good.
Okay.
And I kind of get that sense from Ian, not that he's like Ivanhoe specifically, but that he's representing in his voice. It's what he doesn't say. It's his actions. In just to further your point that there is that sense of everything's falling to heck, but
Yeah.
here I am singing and being a dope and being a dope is a symbol of light, even though that's not really in the lyrics. And let us talk about those lyrics.
Let's talk about him here. So much to go on here.
Yeah, I think we should pick and choose.
Yeah, just in general, so Dark Ages. We've covered what Dark Ages is. He's talking about he's using the seasons as an allegory here
Indeed.
for what is just starting to happen, what is about to come. I mean, he's talking about the long winter's fall. Are you ready for it?
It's basically winter is coming before George R.R. Martin.
Yeah, long before it. But he's also talking about the economic times of things slowing down. He's talking about environmental, not just the turning of the seasons, but the man-made effects. Are you
Yes.
ready for this stuff? Here it comes. It is as reliable as the turning of the seasons. But now, guess what? The turning of the seasons is not that reliable. So
Yeah, I agree. You almost get a sense that the infrastructure is collapsing. The television dies because there's no electricity coming through the
right,
wires.
yeah. Yeah.
There's something very poetic that maybe I'm reading too much into this, but is there time for another, cries the drunkard in his sleep? Not likely, said the child, what's done the Lord can keep.
There's a time for another, cried the drunkard in his sleep. Not likely, said the little child, what's done the Lord can keep.
I almost feel like that is, the old visualization of the old year and the new year, where the old year is this kind of old
sure.
decrepit person, and the new year is a baby.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In the old days, in the days of the mummer shows, that would often sometimes be depicted as a stylized battle with the new year slaying the old year.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I almost feel like this is a version of that, where the old year is so drunk and useless that he's just asking for more booze in his sleep, and the child is like, you know what, your time is over. It is time for a new thing to happen, and it might be terrible, but it's necessary.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not necessarily, oh hooray, a new year, a fresh start. Like this year could be darker and worse than the last one.
Oh yeah,
but time is moving and change is happening.
But there's a sense of almost that these dark times are going to cleanse the earth of the sins of all the lady and the butler and the, who do we have later on, the slick tycoons and rich buffoons.
Yeah, and that's kind of a note that I have in here, and I want to tie it back to Ian's voice being kind of the light in the darkness and trying to save people, usher them through this darkness. There's this sense of let's burn it all down and watch in glee as it falls apart around the ears of those who made it happen, the rich tycoons, the vicar, et cetera, and then we will happily rebuild from those ashes.
Yeah. Or if we survive, we will.
Right. It also smacks of Wondering Again. Was a little post-apocalyptic feel. So yeah, we're seeing these little bits and pieces that they're ideas that Ian keeps coming back to over and over. And I think we saw that with, what's the next one? Oh, Old Aces Die Hard, where it's where we see it as pieces of this and this and this pulled in, but it's really just Ian talking about what's really moving him, and it moves him so much it has come out in multiple songs.
At the same time, with this song, I feel that there is an implication of responsibility to the listener themselves, and even to the singer. And in the haze consumer craze, do we take the sugar pill?
Yeah.
It's not really, it's not saying, oh, once the rich people fall down, we'll be able to have the revolution and everything will be fine. It's like, oh yeah, the rich people are useless, and also we're useless.
Yeah, because we have been molded by society to do this, and what can we do? What can we do?
That's a very medieval thought. There was this perspective during the turn of the millennia when, the economy was collapsing and the bubonic plague was ravaging Europe. There was this sense of, well, we deserve this. This is God's punishment for us.
Sure.
For not being faithful or for being sinners.
Yeah.
The sins and the sort of construction of it is different. It's there's no God in this.
Right. But we have done it to ourselves.
Yeah, it's justice in a way. It's
Yeah.
karma in the sense that it is the result of our collective actions.
Right. And no one has done anything to, or in the past, no one did anything to curtail it. So this is it. This is what we get.
Yeah. There are a couple things that I want to pull out. I want to kind of walk us through the chorus.
Sure.
Dark ages shaking the dead, closed pages better not read, dull rages, they burn in your head.
Yeah.
What do you make of shaking the dead?
Is that a reference to the current generation referring to them as dead? That they're as good as dead, but they are the ones being affected by this, because the ones actually in the ground, they don't care.
Dead man walking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is it saying that? Yeah, I like that interpretation. I'm trying to think if there's an alternate one.
I was going to say, did you have something in mind?
No, I was asking you because I was struggling with that one a little bit. Closed pages better not read. I take that to mean, this is a period of history it's not even worth reading about because it's just depressing. It's almost like knowing about what's happening now will infect you.
That's exactly it. Don't read about it. It's depressing. It's in the past anyway, but that also ties in perfectly with the phrase, I'm going to paraphrase it here. If you don't learn about history, you're forced to repeat it. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And then dull rages, they burn in your head. I mean, I feel like
you can rage and rail at all of the injustice and everything falling apart around you, but I mean, in the end, it's just you're just screaming into the void, right?
Yeah. Oof, it's a lot going on. There's a lot of anger in this song, but
oh my gosh, it's so angry. It is the angriest and darkest song that we've heard to date, I think.
But it's not angsty, which I like.
No, yeah. It's a different take on this really powerful emotion from Ian, and I think that's what really makes it so effective. Is because there's such a driving force here. At the same time, there's no self-deprecation. There's no taking some of the blame in a way.
Yeah, it's not emo.
Yeah, and we're accustomed to that with Ian, and in no way am I complaining about that. I mean, that's one of the things that I really like about Ian as a songwriter, and I mean, I'm a sappy emo at heart, but
this song seems like a bit of a breakthrough.
Yeah, it really does. It really does, and I can see, honestly, if we're thinking about everything that's going on with the band in terms of interpersonal relationships, John, et cetera, and what happens after this where Ian's like, I'm going solo. I can see this being a cathartic process for him.
Like he sees the world falling apart around him, not only the macro world of the oil industry and the economy and politics, but also his inner circle. He sees the
Sure.
fault lines there. He knows that it's all going to fall apart. And what he fears is that there will be a dark age for him.
Right. Right. We had it great, and we grew, and we prospered, but we fell just like we're falling just like the Roman Empire. It's this maybe this is an inevitability, and by golly, I'm pretty mad about that. Yeah. This is a good song.
There's so many little references. I love the reference to the vicar. It seems to be setting the vicar up. Typically in English society, the vicar is to be respected and kind of a pillar of
Sure.
society, even if you're not religious. But here we have the vicar as this completely ineffective figure where, who doesn't have the power to do anything because
Yeah.
as a symbol or as an individual, his power comes from society and the institutions, and that is all
Right.
falling apart.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It makes me think about your reference to the plague, when people thought that they were being punished or that God abandoned them. If there is no God, you're just a dude with a white collar.
Exactly.
Like, why should I listen to you if this is what your God, if this is the guy that you pledged your life to spreading his word, if this is what he did for us, what are you going to do?
Right. I mean, Ian has never been a huge fan of religion. I do like the
Yeah.
line about, and try the trick with loaves and fishes shared, that what is regarded in the Bible and in the teachings of the church as a miracle, Ian is referring to as a trick to
Yeah.
get people to believe. But now we're seeing, the cracks in society are so profound that there's nothing, all the tricks are falling apart, and so there's nothing to convince people to believe.
To finish that couplet, it goes back to tying in with the vicar being powerless, and the vicar shouts as the lights go out and no one really cares.
Yeah.
And trying to trade with loves and fishes share. And the vicar shouts as the lights go out and no one really cares.
Because if it's doomsday, if it's end of the world, let's go kiss that girl at the grocery store that we've had our eyes on for the last year.
Or let's go and try a breadfruit at the grocery store.
I've been waiting to try breadfruit. I think now is the time.
It's now or never.
But what if that's the last thing that you eat and you don't like it, Omen?
Well, then you have some goldfish in your pocket as a backup.
Okay, thank God. I never leave home without them.
So, Nick, here's what I want to ask you.
Yes. Ask away.
Is this song, how relevant does this song feel right now?
Oh gosh, it didn't until we talked about it. Even though I got a lot out of it and taking my notes and listening to it a couple of times before we started recording, it really didn't hit home until like we kind of combined our powers to make it ultra depressing.
With our powers combined.
It's pretty poignant.
Yeah.
It's pretty potent and pretty poignant. And I'm a pretty pony. And I
so
mean,
much pee.
it's dark. It's really, really dark.
Here's
And in a way, I really like it for that.
Yeah.
But and on the other side of that coin, it's like, woof. It's heavy.
Well, I thought that you were going to answer thusly, and here I want to offer the antidote, which is probably the first time I've ever said that word on purpose, to your feelings, which is to point out that as the Dark Ages that Petrarch identified came to an end,
Uh-huh.
and as the Dark Ages that Ian was going into personally and was observing in the world around him, to a certain extent, resolved themselves. Now that we are in another period that we can perceive as Dark Ages, it is perhaps within our ability to hope or to trust that there will be an upswing on the other side, and we will come newly into another enlightenment any day now.
I will come nudely into another enlightenment.
Well, that's the only way to do it. The next enlightenment will finally expose the tyranny of clothing.
It's just a device of the man to hold you down.
Yeah.
And that man is Tommy Hilfiger. And
Him
Levi.
specifically?
Levi Strauss and Tommy Hilfiger, yep.
Wow, yeah. We hate skin, we don't want to see it.
Ew, disgusting.
Here's your chastity jeans.
I mean, denim is very conducive to chastity.
Is it?
I mean, it's rough and it's stiff and
sexy.
And yeah, I knew that's where that was going.
Rough and...
Omen, what are we doing next week? The end of the album.
Oh, on the podcast, what are we doing? Sure.
What do you want to do next week, just in general? Do you have plans?
No, I don't have any plans.
We are actually doing a double up because we've got 2 instrumentals on this album.
I think I know what one of them is.
Which one is that?
Elegy.
Elegy. That is the final track off of side B, but we're also covering the final track off of side A, which is Warm Sporen.
Oh, Warm Sporen, yes.
Yeah.
Or Sporan, we don't know.
Sporen. I think it's Sporen, isn't it?
Sporen?
Doesn't he say Sporen? I think I've heard Sporen before.
Let's
Maybe
go
I
with
haven't.
Sporen.
We got a couple of notes in the Discord today about our pronunciation of Romani from Commercial Traveler. I think it was.
I think
Doc
that's one of those
Savage
words
who-
that's not an English word, and so there's no
Yeah.
necessarily correct way to pronounce it in English.
I think in the UK they pronounce it
Romani.
Romani. Yeah, one of those.
I had some Romani for lunch.
Delicious little
hot water,
hard boiled
good to go.
egg. Yeah, great. And then after next week, surprise, we've got that starts 3 weeks of Christmas tracks because we're already into December.
Oh my goodness.
That's right.
Nick, you know what I would like for Christmas?
What would you like for Christmas? I'm going to put it on my list. It's a little early in terms of recording, but I'll put it on the list, Omen. What do you want?
I'd like for all of our listeners to go to patreon.com and find Talk Tull to Me and become Patreon members. Much like Plutarch could not have functioned without his patrons, neither can we.
That was good. The road to enlightenment is paved in 5 stars. So please enlighten us to your opinion on Talk Tull to Me. Go to your podcatcher of choice and rate and review us. That is how we know how you feel about us. It's also how other people know about the show and how much you love it. So let them know, please.
You can spread the knowledge of Talk Tull to Me in these dark times.
Let us be that sweet, angry voice at the end of the marshy fen, leading you through the fog.
As Dante wrote in the Divine Comedy, the hope of ultimate salvation is never lost as long as we can see the stars. The 5 stars, that is, that you can rate us with.
As long as we can listen to Talk Tull to Me.
That's right.
Until next week, I am the lady in the parlor, Nick McGill.
I am the TV that just went out, Omen Sade.
We are ready for the long winter's fall, Feckless Momes.
And this is The Trick with Loaves and Fishes. Talk Tull to Me. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we've been trapped up here for 6 weeks. I'm starting to lose my mind.
I'm definitely overeating beans. I wish that we had gotten other cans of food.
Should we go to town?
I don't know. I mean, it seems to have died down. I mean, no pun intended. It seems to have died down there. I know it was a little too soon.
I think we should just wait until we get a pigeon saying the plague is over.
Yeah, and then can we eat the pigeon?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely.
Squab and pinto beans.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Okay. I have something to pass the time.
Okay,
right.
Thank God I'm bored and I'm hungry. Go on.
Once upon a time, there was a nun.
Uh-huh.
And she was so horny all the time
Naturally.
that they sent her to a different convent.
Uh-huh.
But she just was so horny.
Uh-huh.
And then I was that nun.
Nice. Good twist. An M. Night Shyamalan twist right there. It was good.
Yeah,
I like that.
I was the nun all along. That was the.
I wasn't.
Okay, I'm not a very
expecting
good storyteller. Your turn. You go.
Okay. All right. So once upon a time, there was a guy, and he broke his leg, so he was like housebound.
Whoa.
So to keep him entertained, his wife got him a telescope, so he could like look out at the town, and look at the stars,
and he saw
someone
super horny nun.
He saw a super horny nun, and I was that man with the telescope.
So it was you. That explains so much. Okay. I probably shouldn't even tell you this. I have a really dirty story.
I mean, it's been a while, so I'm ready for this. I'm good for this.
All right. So, like 7 years ago, I was in a Russian bathhouse.
Okay, go on.
And all the lights went out, and there was an accident with the massage oil at the same time. So everyone was just groping around in the dark, covered in massage oil, and all of a sudden, this huge Greek guy grabs me. He whispers into my ear. He holds me tight. I can feel his beard on my cheek, and he said, "Dr. Tolton is proud member of the Feckless Moms Audio Network."
That accent was...